told. Technical difficulties. Technical difficulties. No, that worked. So that would pick up our...
Did you start the recording?
Okay. Thank you for joining us for the January.
I'm Trent. Here. Mayor Johnson.
Here. And thank you. And our first item tonight is oral comments from the public. If there's anyone that would like to speak on something that is not on the agenda tonight, this is the time to do it.
Good evening. Hello, Mayor and City Council. My name is Linda Rasmussen. I'm here representing Fortuna Theater Foundation. We are a group whose goal is to restore and reopen our beautiful Art Deco theater on Main Street. I was last here 2 years ago, and my group wanted me to come circle back and let you know where we were, because we've made a lot of progress. And I do recognize some faces, Tammy Trent and Mike Johnson, but Carlos Diaz is new, so I thought I'd let you know about us. The theater history, which I think most of you know, December 2022, we had a big earthquake, and that didn't structurally damage the theater, but it took out that main theater stage and large screen because of water damage. It set off the sprinklers, and no one knew about it till the next day, so it caused an immense amount of damage. Again, nothing structural, but that all needs to be cleaned out. And at that point, the theater owner, it had been COVID, he just got it open, he's like, I give up, and he closed the place down. Our history, when we were last here, again, we were just an idea. October 2024, we had a table at the Apple Fest, tons of community support. We had a Facebook group up to 4,000 people. I mean, everybody wants the theater back, and that was clear. So at that point, we decided to form a nonprofit. And our nonprofit history is that, first of all, I didn't realize how much that would take. It's a lot. It's took us a while. We've got it going now. We do have our nonprofit, Fortuna Theater Foundation. We have bylaws. We have a website. We have board members. We have a bank account. We have mentors. Greg Foster's been very helpful. He's part of the Eureka Theater. And I've had meetings with Chico El Rey, which seems to match us kind of apples for apples. So we've learned a lot. We did meet with the theater owner since we saw you last. And he is interested in selling the theater, or lease-to-own kind of a deal. He has 18 beautiful theaters over, I think it is 3 states. You can look at Cinema West to get the details on the theaters. Ours is the only one shuttered, he's a businessman. He felt it didn't pencil out. Our thought, and mine is too, my concern would be it's been 3 years and you just can't leave that building there. Every day it's sitting there empty. No good is going to come from that. So I really like to see it cleaned up and refurbished, of course. Of course, we do have our merchandise now. A shout out to Coda Creations, who created this for us. What's next? You will see us out there. We are going to be raising funds. Our pitch is that if everyone in Fortuna, and we're counting everyone, even the kids, if they donated $88, we would have the money we want. And I guess that's my time. I do have, may I drop this off with you? It's a summary of what I said.
You can leave it with the
Thank
city
you.
manager. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. So there are ways in which park owners, this is around the rent stabilization ordinance, and there are ways in which park owners can get around a week or so through loopholes. The 2 main areas are in pass-through expenses and a no cap on rent increases upon sale or transfer of a mobile home. And I'm here to just talk about the first point. So the draft RSO allows for a park owner to submit a fair return petition to increase the rents in the event of a capital expenditure. This means that a park owner could decide to put in a swimming pool or second floor to clubhouse and pass on those expenses to the residents, greatly eroding rent stabilization, possibly providing new services or amenities that park residents don't want or need, while the park owner exploits their ability to force park residents to pay. The park residents would have to pay however much the park owner says it costs, or however long the park owner says, without having to show proof of these costs, nor do they have to communicate how long those increases need to be in play in order to fully cover those expenses. Too often, these increases are just baked into park residents' monthly invoices, and the park owners bank on the park residents to forget about those increases, forever paying on that increase. So not only does the park owner recoup those costs, they also benefit from the improvements when the park is sold, and they continue to collect those increases year over year, even after they've recouped their costs. So in the draft RSO, instead of allowing this, we feel some measures to make it a stronger RSO is a park owner should have to get the approval of 75% of park owners prior to submission of a petition for any pass-through expenses, whether capital or not. If the petition is passed, the process should include open books ensuring appropriate expenditures, ensuring they are not overcharging and or employing personal connections. And the pass-through charge should go away when the project is completed and the park owners have recouped those expenses. So essentially we're saying, please don't shoot yourselves in the foot by allowing gaping loopholes in the rent stabilization ordinance as it relates to pass-through expenses. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lana Craig. I am also with Royal Crest, part of the Save Our Seniors group. I obviously live at Royal Crest. I'm so grateful to the council, to Amy, to Sienna for all the work and getting this rent stabilization ordinance on the board. One issue that I have, I'm following up on Lane's regarding the pass-through expenses, about the proposed draft that you submitted regarding these pass-through expenses. In regard to capital expenditures, as we all know, these would be long-term investments in the park, which increases the value of that asset. For example, rebuilding the clubhouse or putting in a swimming pool. Capital expenditures benefit the park owner by increasing the value of the park, their asset. Without proper oversight, the park owner would choose to upgrade the property and pass these expenses onto the park residences, thereby increasing their asset while we are paying the bills. This is a big concern for us. It would certainly not be the right thing to have happen. In regard to deferred maintenance, pass-through expenses, the park owner has chosen to defer maintenance and done the minimal amount necessary to keep the park. This has been going on some months. To now allow the park owner to choose to do their long deferred maintenance plans and pass these costs on to us, the residences, would be very wrong, unfair, and of course would be a burden to the homeowners while rewarding the park owner for not taking care of the property as we think it should be taken care of. I appreciate your attention to this matter. One more thing I wonder is why the council chose to have their attorney create this draft. Did you look into rent ordinances already established, not only in Humboldt County, but other neighboring areas as well? It seems the draft is open-ended and doesn't address all the concerns that other areas have realized are important. I thank you very much.
My name is Cecilia Holland. I've been a resident of Fortuna for more than 50 years. I want to thank you all for your work. You've done a great job guiding our city through these difficult times. I really appreciate your taking the time to take on the rent stabilization ordinance. I have 2 points to make about this draft. The first is, I think it puts an undue burden on you to make it your job to approve the hearing officer's decision. I think that the hearing officer's decision should be final. Second, I think you need to add a charge on the park owner for initiating this process, so there's no financial cost to the city. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Happy New Year. And thank you very much, Mayor and City Council, for all your hard work. I'm speaking also about the fair return petition of a hearing officer. The draft RSO allows for a hearing officer to be appointed by the city, the Fortuna city manager, in the event a park owner files a fair return petition. This is non-specific in terms of the qualification requirements for a hearing officer. Also, the draft RSO includes no limits on how often a park owner can file a fair return petition, which means residents could be under constant barrage and threat of rent increases while petitions are pending. This is the requested RSO alteration. The RSO should require the Fortuna city manager to submit all completed fair return petitions to the offices of the California Office of Administrative Hearings. This office, established for this purpose by state taxes, provides hearing officers that are trained, sworn officers of the court, experienced in judiciary proceedings with no local biases. Park owners shall be allowed only one fair return petition per park per 12-month period. If they submit a petition and it is deemed incomplete and they fail to complete it within the 45-day limit, they must wait another 12-month period and must forfeit their filing fee. The goal of having a member of the judiciary who is sworn and educated is to avoid local decision-making, which can create a situation where corruption is super easy, where those not educated in this can be easily influenced. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jane Lutz, and I'm also a resident of Royal Crest Mobile Estates. I'm going to speak about the sale or transfer of a mobile home. The current draft of the rent stabilization ordinance does not have anything in it that protects park residents from the park owner increasing the lot rent when a home is sold or transferred. The problem with that is, when a house is sold, the park owner can raise the rent for the lot in unlimited amounts, which makes it unaffordable, undermining the resale value of the home. The rule of thumb in the industry is that for every $100 the rent increases, the value of the home decreases by $10,000. The goal of an RSO is to stabilize for affordability. Part of that is recognizing that if a potential buyer can go 3 miles north, where the Humboldt County RSO applies, and purchase the same home layout with a significantly cheaper lot rent, why wouldn't they? I think the RSO needs to restrict rent increases for new buyers or transfers to 3%. That is the only way to ensure that over the long run, the rents don't creep up unsustainably. My husband and I plan to live in our home for the rest of our lives. When we are both gone, our heirs will want to sell the house, or maybe one of them would like to live in it. Either way, the rent for the lot should not go so high as to decrease the value of the home or make it unaffordable to live in. Please include an increase limit of no more than 3% upon sale or transfer of a home. That's the only way to ensure that over the long run, the rents don't creep up unsustainably. Thank you so much for your attention.
Good evening. My name is Laura, and I'm also a resident of Royal Crest. And I'm here to talk about the draft of the RSO requires the City Council to vote to approve the hearing officer's final decision regarding the petition of the park owner to be able to increase the rents. This is a real big problem because presumably the petition would have been decided by someone with authority and highly knowledgeable about all of the aspects that go into allowing the fair return. Presumably, this decision maker, hopefully an administrative judge trained in jurisprudence, will have devoted a lot of time and effort with reasoning to back up their final decision. To then expect the city council members to know as much or about the issue to make a final decision is unrealistic, and it's flawed. It's a flawed policy. In almost all other municipalities with RSOs, this decision is made by a judge and is usually final. If the city council can second guess or undermine a final decision, this means that the process is highly subject to possible corruption. It also will potentially draw the process out for months. We are requesting the RSO alteration. Assign all fair return petitions to administrative law judge, hearing officer from California Office of Administrative Hearings, where their decision was final determination in the matter, and do not allow the city council to make the final decision. Also, create a petition filing fee for park owners to offset expenses related to the administration of it. My final thing is, I worked for 50 years, and every time a corporation came in and took us over, I lost my pension because they sold out at 9.5 years. So now at the age of 73, I'm back to working because of another corporation coming in and jacking up the rents. It's not fair. It's not right. Even though you put money away, you're still losing all that money that they promised you. So I really, really hope that you'll think about putting a lawful judge in place to do the final decisions and keep it at that. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name's Stephen Greel. I'm a resident at Royal Crest. And I'd like to address the fair return policy. I'm a veteran. There's other veterans up there. I'm a disabled veteran living on a fixed income. And as these rents go up, it gets harder and harder for us. So I would like to address the proposed fair return policy within the rent stabilization ordinance. The proposed fair return policy allows park owners to pass on the expense of major improvements to the renters without any input from them. Should the owners decide to build something new, that expense would be passed on to us, the renters, putting a further burden on many that are struggling to get by. I'm asking the council to revisit the fair return policy contained in the RSO and stipulate that improvement expenses must have the approval of 75% of the residents. Thank you for hearing me.
Hi, my name is Laura. Thank you very much for listening to us tonight and for considering RSO. I would like, just in case anybody wondered what the SOS is, it's for our seniors who cannot be here because they are disabled or are sick, ill, whatever. And also some of the people in the park are a little bit afraid of what we're doing, so they'd rather not show up. Anyway, I want to talk to you about the rent increase based on the CPI. The draft RSO includes an annual rent increase cap of 100% of the CPI. This means that if the CPI should happen to be extraordinarily high, as it was in 2022, which was 8%, rent stabilization would be eroded. Requesting RSO alteration. The draft RSO should include an annual cap of no more than 3% of the CPI, or whichever is lower. This is normal in strong RSOs that are in practice today and have a cap. Additionally, one other thing, as it relates to the pass-through expenses such as capital expenditures and other improvements to the park, we are requesting that you vote to add this to the temporary rent increase moratorium, which currently ends April 1st. This way, until the RSO is completed, at that time, the language for the pass-throughs will be documented. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Gail, and I'm also a resident of Royal Crest. I'm here tonight to talk about the reduction in rent for reduction in park services. The draft RSO does not allow for any reduction in rent for reduction in services resident petitions as a provision to protect park residents from park owner retaliation for the RSO. This means that if the park owners should decide to cut back park-wide services, such as landscaping, street signs, or watering, residents have no way of maintaining the value of their homes in a run-down park, and resale values will plummet. Requested RSO alteration. The draft RSO should include a reduction in rent for reduction in services regulation that would allow residents to file a petition with the Office of Administrative Hearings to either get the park owner to bring back the services that were in place before RSO went into effect, or have their rents lowered according to the value of the reduced services. The Humboldt County, when the RSO passed, the park owners fired 90% of landscape maintenance crew, stopped watering lawns, stopped repairing aging and broken amenities, and took away a significant portion of the clubhouse. Residents filed a petition, and all services came back, except 75% of the staff, before the petition went through the judgment process. The petition allows for residents to prove diminished services and to calculate a deduction, in line of the value of the services that were discontinued. When notified to intent to file, park owners can return the services without going to hearing. It is a powerful deterrent for park owners and has proven to work wherever it exists. The petition should only be allowed once per 12-month period and would require signatures of agreement from at least a third of the park residents to proceed. We thank you for your time tonight, and you guys have a good evening.
Good evening. My name is Annie Leverton. I am a homeowner at Royal Crest. I'm also concerned, that the draft RSO does not address the possibility that park owners can reduce services or retaliate in any way. This happened to a park in Humboldt County after their RSO passed. The park owner fired the crew, stopped all maintenance, and even took away part of the clubhouse. Because there were provisions in their RSO, the homeowners were able to file a petition It was successful, and most services were restored. We need to include provisions for such a petition process in this RSO. I sent an email to Ms. Nilsson with further details about this, and I hope you will include a process for redress in case the park owners retaliate. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Hillary Mosier. I'm the regional manager for the Golden State Manufactured Homeowners League, and I'm a resident representative for Ocean West Park in McKinleyville. I helped write Measure V, and I wanted to talk about the draft RSO having a big fault, and that is that it doesn't include any administrative fees to be paid by residents or park owners to offset expenses related to the RSO. This means that any costs related to the RSO must come out of the already insufficient Fortuna General Fund. Typically in RSOs across the state, and I work all around the state, will require about a $5 to $3 monthly fee from the residents, and many also will charge the park owners about a 5% or 0.5, half of a percent monthly fee per rented lot. This goes into an administrative account, and it can be used when staff have, like if a fair return petition is submitted, staff has to vet it and find out, is this thing complete? Does it contain everything we need for this petition? Now, you also, I suggest, should institute a fee for the park owners when they submit that fair return petition. In Humboldt County, it's quite expensive. It's over $1,000. And they use that money to hire a consultant who's an expert to evaluate the petition to find out, is this, like one of the things, they have to open their books for the past 2 years. In my park, when the owner did a fair return petition, he refused to do that. So the administrative judge said, what are we even doing here? And it was basically dismissed. But in your RSO, there's no fees associated whatsoever with it. And I strongly advise you, and I have talked to all the folks that would care to come at Royal Crest, and they all agree. At first they were like, no, we don't want to have to pay more money. But then I explained, you know what, this is the cheapest insurance you're ever going to buy to prevent you from having to increase your rent thousands of dollars. And in this area in Fortuna, I am suggesting 3% instead of 5%, because the rents have gotten so high compared to Humboldt County that's had the rent stabilization ordinance in place for the past 10 years. So 3% for the park residents and 0.5% per each lot for the park owners. And these are parks that have 10 or more residents in them. The other thing that I think is really important to remember is that you don't want to self-sabotage. In other words, if you are capping the rent monthly, but not capping it upon sale, in the long run, the rents will get too high. Thank you all. Thank you for the work you've done. Amy, thank you for all of you for everything you've done. I really appreciate it.
It looks like that's it for that item. Is there any other comments, public comment regarding items not on the agenda? Well, thank you for bringing your concerns in, and thank you for being here tonight. And we will move on to the consent calendar, where we have 11 items, including the city council minutes from the 5th, on all the monthly reports, administrative, community development, parks, police, public works, finance, reported disbursements, approve a $12,000 supplemental budget request to allocate a recreation camp program overages to the Parks and Recreation budget, approve renewal of a memorandum of understanding with the Fortuna Garden Club, and approval of a supplemental budget request and authorize city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Freshwater Environmental Services to prepare an update for the city's urban water management plan. Does anybody want to pull anything? Is there any public comment on any of these items? No public comment on the consent calendar.
Motion to adjourn, or motion to, I'm ready to go home. Motion to approve the consent calendar?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. And now we will move to city council business with a public hearing and introduction of a first reading of ordinance 2026-781, amendments to the Fortuna zoning map. We have a staff report.
Okay, helps if we have the mic on. So this agenda item is for zoning map amendments to complete implementation of the Mill District specific plan and land use element updates that were adopted by the City Council last year. I have a fairly brief presentation just to walk through these map amendments. So why do these amendments need to be undertaken? State law requires that the city's zoning ordinance be and other land use regulations be consistent with the general plan. And at this point in time, the zoning map does not sync up with the changes that were adopted last year as part of the land use element update and the Mill District specific plan. So the intent is to sync those all up. So this first group that we're going to walk through, and I have a map, is this is a long corridor that traverses through the Mill District area. It is it's a portion of the Northwestern Pacific Railroad Great Redwood Trail Agency right-of-way corridor. And there were amendments last year as part of the Mill District specific plan to facilitate the future development of a Class 1 trail through the Mill District, and also to implement policies that for the Strongs Creek Trail to provide a continuous trail corridor as part of a future effort. Not that anything's at this point in the works that I'm aware of, and to improve active transportation opportunities in the city. And at this point in time, these 4 parcels are unzoned. They haven't been zoned, and they would all be zoned to be public facility as indicated. And that zoning district is consistent with the general plan designation of Mill District, which applies to all those parcels. So from a mapping standpoint, it's a very long corridor, so I took 4 slides to get them all to show. So this just walks through the corridor, and it begins where at that intersection at 12th Street where it intersects with a Newburgh Road, and then wrong button, continues on through the Mill District, and then ends at where it the intersection where that corridor intersects with South Kenmore Road, as shown here. And so those would all be rezoned to public facilities. And the purpose of the public facility zone is to provide, got all kinds of things on my screen, so it's a little hard to see things, provide a procedure for orderly establishment of public, quasi-public, or private facilities, their operations, or change in the use of lands owned by governmental agencies. And then principally permitted uses, it's a range, as expected, public services and administrative offices, police stations, fire stations, parks, public schools, and that sort of, those types of uses. So the next group, it's 2 parcels. These parcels are near the Mill District specific plan. And this first one, it's identified in the staff report as number 5, and this parcel is privately owned and is currently designated corridor mixed use. That was an update made as part of last year's amendments, and the change here is to change the existing zoning from heavy industrial to CTES. And currently the property, there's an unoccupied single-family residence on the property. And so these maps show that parcel and its location. And so the CT, the commercial thoroughfare zone, it would be, is more in keeping the nature of those uses, which is a variety of commercial uses, visitor serving, there's like some mixed residential on a conditional basis, is more in keeping with the corridor land use designation and would, versus heavy industrial, which is really, really to protect, where that's applied is where you want to have a lot of separation, because usually you're going to have very large and loud, and there could be odors associated with uses that would occur in the heavy industrial. So this zoning change would result in a zone that is more consistent with the land use designation and would avoid future potential for confusion for a property owner as to what they could do there, because this CT lines up better with the mixed-use corridor land use designation. And the emergency services, the proposal to add that as a combining zone, that would be, I have a map, series of maps here showing that. What it's showing is, hopefully you can see my mouse, these brown parcels. This is the existing emergency shelter combining zone that applies to these parcels, and so it would be adding this parcel as part of the same continuum of emergency shelters. It doesn't, it would be just a land use option should a property owner that usually would be like a public entity that would do that, but it just adds it to the menu of uses along with all the uses that are allowed in CT. Excuse me, sorry. So let's see. And then just to elaborate a little bit more on and provide a comparison of the, or not comparison, sorry about that, how the CT zone implements the corridor mixed use. So as on the left-hand side, the corridor mixed use, provides a single-use vertical and horizontal mixed-use development that's oriented towards the boulevard, the Fortuna Boulevard, and this parcel has frontage right on Fortuna Boulevard, so that makes sense. It includes a mix of uses, retail and service establishments, restaurants, entertainment, professional administrative offices, residential units, so on and so forth. And then the CT, as you can see on the right there, aligns with that by providing for retail and wholesale highway, and it does provide for heavy commercial, but also for transient habitation and a bigger mix of uses that better fit with that land use designation. So staff recommends that this zoning change be adopted. And then I think I just kind of, these are the uses that are allowed in CT, and as you can see, it's quite a variety of uses and provides a mix, whereas in a heavy commercial, it's going to be a lot more limited, what's going to be principally permitted. So going on to the last parcel, this is a parcel that is owned by the city of Fortuna. It is designated as public under the general plan. It has city infrastructure to support the city's wastewater treatment plant. The proposal here, the zoning changes to zone it to public facility with an emergency shelter combining zone to keep that. And so this is kind of the in-between parcel that we were just looking at, adjacent to that. So we just change that to better reflect that it's city-owned. It's got city improvements on it that the cities are essential services, so that's going to be retained by the city. So that makes sense. And the recommendation to retain the emergency shelter combining zone on that parcel, which is discussed in the staff report, is that by removing it, there would be additional analysis that would be required because of state law for emergency shelters, and that it would, part of when the city reaches the point of having to do its housing element, there will probably be a need to do emergency shelter analysis, so that would probably be a more appropriate juncture to do that rather than doing it's a comprehensive analysis that would be, that the state would be looking for to remove that site. So as far as CEQA goes, the supplemental EIR that was prepared and certified last year for the general plan, the land use element updates, the mill district specific plan, is covered the zoning amendments, and the staff report gets into more detail, as does the ordinance, as to which points and where that can be documented. So the CEQA has been completed for these zoning map amendments. As far as the public hearing notice, it was published in the North Coast Journal and posted in the city, at City Hall and on the city's website at about Christmas time. And then notices were mailed to the affected property owners on December 30th. We did have one returned by the Postal Service. It wasn't delivered, even though we used the current tax roll. So, but they did receive the Planning Commission notice. So I'm not sure quite what happened there, but. So the findings to adopt the amendments are that it's in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. The amendments are in the public interest. They are consistent with the general plan, and they are consistent with the other provisions of the zoning regulations of the municipal code, and as documented in the staff report and in the ordinance. Staff believes all the findings. It's our recommendation that all those findings can be made, and so we'd recommend the public hearing, and then primary discussion and motion to introduce in first reading. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions there may be.
All right, thank you. That was a comprehensive staff report regarding all of that, and it does address a lot of different parcels and the zoning required in that. We will open the public hearing, and is there any questions from councils?
I have a couple, but I'll ask after the public hearing.
Okay. Is there anybody wish to speak on this from the public? Okay. Well, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and you can ask your...
I have a question on the emergency shelter. Will that affect any of the businesses? Will it be close to any businesses right around there?
So there's already parcels to the north of the where the emergency shelter, the existing one is, that they have improvements already on them. Some of them do, that are designated with that combining zone already.
My only concern is I don't want this to turn in like the Bayshore Mall, where they have transients stealing and, because they've got a place to stay there, stealing and interrupting the business. And is it just for emergencies, or is it they can stay there every night?
So this would be emergency shelters that have received permits from the city. Speaking as a resident of Eureka only, I don't believe there are actually legal emergency shelters operating at the Bayshore Mall.
There's not.
Right.
But it draws the same type of people. They would just have a place to sleep at night.
So the emergency shelter, these would be ones that would go through the city's permitting process and would have to meet the city's requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
From what I read and where I saw where the parcels were, this is more of if we ever have an emergency shelter, this is a place we can put it. It's for future use. It hasn't happened yet. because I know that where you're talking about, there are people that camp there. It's not a legal campment, so that's just an enforcement issue that seems to linger no matter what we do. So. So at this time, we've had the public hearing, we've reviewed comments with staff, then we've closed the public hearing, and we would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to introduce and hold first reading of ordinance 2026-781 and read by title only, and continue the public hearing to the City Council's next regular meeting for the second reading and adoption.
Second.
Motion and a second, and it's a roll call.
Ordinance 2026-781, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fortuna certifying compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act and amending Section 17.02.030 of the Municipal Code zoning map to implement general plan land use amendments and the Mill District specific plan. Councilmember Diaz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes. Thank you. And thank you for crossing all the Ts and dotting on all the Is and making sure we're complying with all of these. And that brings us now to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. Back in December 19th, the local jurisdictions and the County of Humboldt sent Recology a letter expressing some concern over the cost proposals that we've seen around the new draft franchise agreement and the implementation of SB 1383. The jurisdictions, including Fortuna, didn't receive a response that was satisfactory, so the jurisdictions met last Friday, and we sent another email to Recology expressing concern over the calculations were missing, they were unexplained, data sources weren't identified, not all the cost efficiencies were not fully reflected either in the rates. Eureka has been the test case for the cost proposals, so to speak, and so we've been seeing some significant cost increases with their proposal. And so the jurisdictions obviously need all of that data to be exceptionally transparent and explained clearly. And so we will be meeting with Recology this Friday for a period of time in the morning to try to hammer out these cost proposals and get the data that we need. I also attended the bi-monthly compliance action plan meeting with CalRecycle because, as you know, we are still in a compliance plan with CalRecycle because we have not implemented SB 1383, but hopefully that will happen one day. So we do not have to be in a compliance plan, and I do not have to meet with CalRecycle every other month. Last week, staff met with our consultant EMC Research to begin the polling process for polling for the sales tax measure in November 2026. Those polling results should be to your city council on April 6th, and then those results will help inform the ballot measure language that will go on the ballot in November 2026. So we're looking forward to that. I attended a chamber luncheon where Big Brothers Big Sisters was the luncheon topic. I met with the State Coastal Conservancy on the Riverwalk Park acquisition. There has been some delay with the NICWIC grant dollars because of the federal government shutdown that occurred in 2025. But since the government is open, that does appear to be progressing, but there is a slight delay in terms of the funding, but it's still progressing, and I do believe the property owners are still in a place that they're willing to sell to the city of Fortuna and the Wiyot tribe. I attended a meeting on operational improvements at the River Lodge with staff. I also attended a tourism and marketing meeting. I met with HCOG, HTA, our Parks and Recreation Director, and our Finance Director to continue to look at options to continue Fortuna Transit services. And we've discussed a number of options, one of which is opening to the general public, which opens up other funding sources that would allow for the continuation of that service. And we hope to bring a staff report to your council in February. We also, myself and the finance director, met with the County of Humboldt to discuss the feasibility of establishing an enhanced infrastructure finance district. We've had the analysis on the EFID, And we shared that financial analysis with the county. And if the city and the county were to either share 35 or 50% of their property tax growth, both jurisdictions would remain in the black. So this does appear to be a possibility. The county will get back to us on their interest to participate in the EFID. And if they are interested, the next step will be for staff to bring a resolution of intention to set up an EFID to the city council, and then the county would do the same, and obviously Fortuna staff would need to attend that Board of Supervisors meeting. I was also a guest on Talk Shop on Friday, January 16th, and then I meet with department heads on a very regular basis, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for city manager? Okay, is there any future agenda items from council? No? All right, well, we'll get into council reports with Councilmember Diaz.
Yes, I have a RCEA meeting coming up on Thursday, and I'm looking for a Fortuna resident who will be interested in serving as the Community Advisory Committee for that group. We meet once a month. And I believe that the term for that will be 2 years. So if anybody in the public is interested, please let me know, and then I'll put in your name. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Well, I do have a little bit to report. We had a HCOG meeting last week, and part of that was dealing with it was receiving public comments from the, on the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, RTIP, and the RTP, and we took that into consideration and had a discussion regarding that. And so it was really kind of a light meeting for HCOG anyways, it was light. And so that's about the limit I can comment on that. I do have a Transportation, Communication, and Public Works League of Cities meeting on Thursday in Sacramento, and I'll be attending that. And when that's over, shooting back to Fortuna, my favorite place. So looking forward to all that. And I think that's about all I have to report on that from my end of things. And it appears that we've reached the end of the meeting this evening.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.